Welcome to Logical Logistics with your host, Joe Becht. Logical Logistics is your source for news, information, and best practices for all things logistics.
This is Logical Logistics, where we cover shipping, supply chain, logistics, and everything in between. Welcome to the show. Hey, it's Joe Becht once again. Thanks for joining us for Logical Logistics. We've reached a milestone today. This is episode 20. And joining us today is Joe Hurst, co-founder of Veroot. It's a cloud-based vendor and compliance management system for the TSA. Correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's correct, Joe. And we've also found our way into other areas as well, basic vendor and carrier management and other products we've recently launched.
All right. So obviously you've co-founded a successful management system. It is web-based. Am I correct there?
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. So can you give me a little background on yourself and how you came about forming Veroot?
Yeah, it's funny, Joe. I always say once you've gotten bit by the logistics bug, it's hard to shake, right? So a little bit about my background. I actually grew up in a trucking family. My dad was a truck driver for 25 years with the Teamsters.
Wow.
Pretty good run there, right?
Yeah.
And once the industry consolidated, he actually lost his job. And what happened is he decided to go out on his own, and he started and still runs a small but profitable air forwarding company. So it's funny. I've been around it. I actually, since you asked the question, I actually didn't think I'd end up back in logistics because I got my engineering degree. I was out of logistics for about 15 years designing portable computers. I got into sales with IBM and SanDisk and some of the semiconductor providers. And then about 5 years ago, maybe it was 6 years ago now, I realized from talking to other folks in the industry, family, friends, that this TSA and vendor management issue was just getting uglier and uglier.
Yeah.
So I had a point in my life where, as every entrepreneur does, you could, set down what you're doing and pick up something else. And we did. And we went at it with a vengeance. We got a team together, and we become the number one repository for TSA compliance. And we're really growing in the area of carrier and vendor management, document storage, things like that. So that's how we got where we are today.
Right. So I did have a demo of the website, and it is quite impressive. And you talked about TSA compliance. So please give us a synopsis of what happens on Veroot, what happens when you sign up for Veroot.
Yeah. So one of the problems we're trying to solve is the issue of gathering all the data from all your agents. So without getting into all the gory details, because some of it is a government protected program, a freight forwarder essentially has to be able to monitor all of their contracted employees and contracted vendors to make sure that they meet TSA requirements. And obviously you know this, Joe, but for folks that are listening that may not be aware, what this ultimately is designed to do is to make sure that no one's putting a bomb on a plane, right?
Right.
That's the ultimate goal of the program, right?
Exactly.
So what Veroot does is it allows you to essentially request a relationship with all of your contracted vendors or agents, and then they commit to updating their employee roster along with all their certifications and trainings. And so from one portal, one master control portal, you, the freight forwarder or indirect air carrier, can see if all the people you hire are in compliance. And then you can also see if someone's dropping the ball or maybe not updating the system, and maybe you put that guy on ice until he gets his house in order. But that's essentially the main concept behind the system.
Right. So, and traditionally, a agent would have to compile all this paperwork and information themselves, make phone calls, send out the program to people. Correct?
Yeah. So prior to Veroot, we talk about sort of before Veroot. What would have to happen is the indirect air carrier would have to send a long form letter that the agent has to sign. That's part of the system requirements that the government has. And so you're signing this letter, then you're most likely scanning it or faxing it back. So that's a little cumbersome. And a lot of times the letters change or need to be updated. And so you can imagine maybe the TSA requires you to do an update. You need to send that out to 100 people and make sure that all of them sign it and send it back. That's a pain.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. And then the other aspect of it is you need their employee rosters, and you need within a 15 to 30 day period, generally speaking, to make sure that all those guys are compliant. So what was happening was these agents that an IAC would utilize would send you a spreadsheet, and every one of them would be in a different format, and you'd have to get it, parse it out and look through it and get it in the right format to upload in the TSA system. Then you'd have to look at their training and make sure that all looked good. And we just thought, boy, that's clunky, having people send spreadsheets and facts. Why don't we just run them through a singular system that everybody could use? That's what we did.
Okay. Now, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners are aware, the TSA likes to do audits. They come in, examine paperwork for shipping protocols. How does this aid in an audit from a TSA agent?
Yeah. So again, I think one of the key value adds of any system to help you with audit is the ability to have it in one portal. So if an inspector came into a freight forwarder and said, I'd like to have this piece of information, instead of rooting through files, maybe a network drive, maybe a fax that was sent over, you can go right in the system. You can pull the letter, for instance, that you need to present to the inspector. You can pull the various employee rosters and certifications. If the company has taken their training on Veroot, you can actually dive into that and pull up the different certificates and things as well. So it allows you to very quickly respond to these requests that the inspector might have.
Okay. Now, have you gotten any feedback from the TSA?
Oh yeah, plenty.
Okay.
Yeah. So where do you want me to start, Joe?
Just shoot. All right. It's interesting because we need to know, what they think of the system. Do they prefer working with a system like this, or they prefer working with the old way? Anything. Let me know any type of feedback you have.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I will say we're good friends with the TSA.
Okay.
And we work with them and talk with them at the highest levels. They actually came out and inspected our operations a couple years ago. They brought in an attaché from Washington, and they just wanted to know a little bit more about us since we were growing so quickly as a company, and they were very satisfied with our process. But a couple of things. Number one, you have to understand the TSA can't recommend any company, right?
Right.
So the TSA is not going to go out and say, hey, Veroot's our, recommended vendor for TSA compliance. But
yeah,
we, as you can imagine, but most of the inspectors that we've talked to are just happy that we're able to help the indirect air carrier organize this information. And a lot of them appreciate the fact that if they ask of a Veroot indirect air carrier, or really an indirect air carrier who's utilizing Veroot, that the information is available quickly. The TSA doesn't really care where the information comes from as long as you have it. And we found that that's the main benefit, that when we do talk to a TSA inspector, they say the one thing that we notice is that the information is readily available and we can get our inspection done and over with fairly quickly. So
Okay.
we've had an excellent relationship with the TSA in that regard.
Excellent. That's great. And you said that they came to your offices. Are you located outside of Cleveland?
Yeah, we're in a suburb of Cleveland. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, Joe. We couldn't go through this podcast without mentioning the championship city now, right?
Right, exactly. Now the way the Indians are playing, much to my chagrin, because I'm a White Sox fan, but but no, yeah, it's not. This is really a great tool. Now, how about what you're describing to me? And of course, everything that's out there. It started actually with MySpace, went to Facebook, then they had to LinkedIn. So this is. Can you network? Is this a way to network like these other sites, as well as or network? I guess network through TSA compliancy.
Yeah, and I would I'll tell you, somebody said this to us one time, and I cringe a little bit just because of the analogy. But
No,
somebody said,
yeah. No,
Veroot's kind of like the Facebook, right, of air freight, right?
No, but you don't want it to be. That's my one gripe with LinkedIn. It's turning into Facebook. But I guess
right.
I want to focus more on a networking aspect of it, because it seems like that you're providing a database where agents are really able to network with each other in a constructive way for compliancy, to actually do business together.
That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
so we have to have a lot of protections on the information so it doesn't get into the wrong hands, but yet there's still that value add. So let me give you an example.
All right.
If an agent registers with Veroot and puts in their facilities and their information and tells a little bit about themselves, we allow them to put in what they do and how they do it. You, as an indirect air carrier, can search in a market. So you could say, I need an agent out of Newark. I'm going to punch in EWR or the Zip or something like that. It's going to bring up a list of agents that you could potentially call or choose. So you click on the agent, up comes their info. You can dial them up, maybe get a quote, ask them, who their favorite sports teams are, whatever you need to do to qualify them as an agent. And then you can click on the request relationship button.
Okay.
And that's where it becomes, like you were saying, a way to sort of research and then connect with the agent once you're satisfied that he met your needs. And then when you connect with him, he's going to do all those things like sign the TSA letter. You're going to get all his information all in one shot without having to take multiple steps to do so.
Okay. So now I'm obviously I'm going to go back to how our listeners out there can see a demo of Veroot, but let's go to the point where a company signs up. Let's go a step-by-step process. What do they do? It's just signed up for Veroot. My company wants to start utilizing agents in the network. What do they do at that point?
Yeah, so at this point in the company, we've gotten pretty good at it because we've done it about, I think there's over 520 indirect air carriers who use Veroot, so we're lucky. This is how it works. You register, it takes about 10 minutes, and usually one of our customer service people help you with that because it's just nice to have someone on the other line, right? So we register. There's obviously a subscription fee with the service. I mean, that's how we have a company.
Right.
So that subscription fee is negotiated based on, the size and number of agents you have to make sure that we get you into one of our plans. And then immediately after that, we make sure your appropriate TSA letter is loaded. And then, of course, you can start connecting with these agents. And if you already have a group of agents that you already use today, that you have a relationship with, we'll connect them up for you so you don't need to go one by one and make that happen.
Okay.
And then you can search for the agent through through the search bar essentially and connect with other agents and other markets that you may not already have covered.
All right, great. Now, as far as the demo, what should a company do to set up the demo to see how Veroot works for their benefit?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. I'll give you guys the website to go to,
Okay.
and you can read up a little bit about Veroot. And as you might expect, it's Veroot.com, and it's
Right.
spelled V as in Victor, EROOT as in Tom, Veroot.com.
All right. So that's www.v as in Victor, EROOT as in Tom.com.
That's right.
All right.
And maybe we're Captain Obvious, but we try to make it easy. Right on the front page, you can put in your first and last name, email, and phone number, and click the request demo button. And usually within minutes, one of our team will call and help you through that process of seeing a demo. And of course, we do, Joe, we do make sure you are an indirect air carrier because of some of the sensitivities that the TSA has in terms of program requirements. So we're going to validate that first with you and make sure you're an indirect air carrier with proper certification before we show you some of the things in the demo.
Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah, and people like easy, so that's good. You can just go to
try.
Yeah, exactly. Back to your background. I mean, electrical engineering with honors from University of Akron. How does this career compare to your previous career, and how does that engineering background how does that help you into what you're doing now?
Yeah, sometimes you don't always end up where you think you're going to end up, right?
Right, exactly.
and that was certainly the case. It's funny because part of my responsibilities with the company is wearing a lot of different hats, but one of those hats is interfacing with our customer service team and with our clients and feeding that information back and forth between our engineering team. Because at the core, even though we provide all these services, they all run on a backbone of software, and that software is thousands and tens of thousands. I think we're probably over a couple million lines of code at this point. And someone needs to be able to bridge the gap between the engineering team with all the propeller hats on and our clients. And that background, having that engineering degree, really helps me, I think, do that. And so when I look back at where I was and how I got here, I'm very appreciative because I can talk on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Joe, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. What's the best way for someone to contact you?
Yeah, I'll give you guys my direct email.
Right.
Since again, it's simple. It's simple, Joe. It's joe@veroot.com. It's my direct email. You can just type me an email if you hear about Veroot or you heard it on this podcast. And whatever questions you have, comments, criticisms, always love to hear it.
All right, so that's Joe at, again, V as in Victor, EROOT as in Tom.com, Joe at Veroot.com. And one of the questions, the main question I like to ask my guests at the end of the show is, what does the term logistics mean to you?
It's a good question.
Well, you see it everywhere.
It's funny. Yeah, you see it everywhere. And it's funny how it dovetails with the question you asked me before about my background in engineering. And it's funny how similar engineering, the concept of engineering or the position of engineering is very similar to traditional logistics provider. At the end of the day, to me, logistics is moving information from point A to point B and storing that information and acting on that information. A lot of logistics providers today don't even touch the freight anymore. What they're moving around is the information to move the freight. And that's what our software does. So, in fact, our software is logistics, according to my definition, which is really moving information around to make sure that everything gets to the right place. So I don't know if that's a good definition, but that's my definition, Joe.
That's it's certainly valid. There's no good or bad. There's so many different, as I've said before, it's used in so many different ways, and your definition is just as good, if not better, than most of the other answers. Joe Hurst from Veroot, thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, how they contact you, Veroot.com and Joe at Veroot.com, correct?
That's right, and you'll see information on the site to request a demo, or we have our call-in line on the site as well if you need any help.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend. Stay safe for the 4th of July.
Joe, it's my pleasure. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, and great questions. And again, go Cavs.
All right. Talk
All
to
right.
you. Bye.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you want to drop us a line, email us at becht5@comcast.net. You can leave comments, or if you want to be a guest, becht5@comcast.net. Also, make sure to review us on iTunes or other media outlets that we're located on. Special thanks goes out to Anthony B., my producer. And we'll see you next time on Logical Logistics.
Thanks for watching our video. Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download us and review us on iTunes. Visit www.beslogistics.net for more logistics, transportation, and warehousing resources. Thanks for watching.